is Tony, my wife and partner and co-host, and she's going to hold up the happy hour, which they extend for us once a month. So all these prices that you see will hold for the rest of the evening. Leah is next door, and so is Jana, who is relatively new to Niche. So I'm going to ask you to be kind and patient to Jana as she deals with the hordes of ghost towners, and tip well and all of that. Is there anything else to? Oh yeah, I was starting to talk about the art to just mention that if you're sitting next to a work of art, just be mindful and aware and try not to lean on it or damage it in any way. As Leah says, if you broke it, you bought it. So you might not want to do that. Anything else you want? Okay. So, in gratitude for their bravery and their willingness to stand up to hate, we'll be dedicating this month's Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic to Micah, Ricky Best, and Taliesin Namkai Meshe. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly. Micah David Cole Fletcher is a poet in the Portland area who was one of 3 people who stood up to a racist terrorist on the MAX train, and he was the only survivor of that attack, that knife attack. And so I don't know Micah personally. I very much admire what he did, but it doesn't really, have to do with him being a poet, except that I am a poet who believes that we have a responsibility to speak up about the things that are happening in our world and to stand up for what's right. So this is a very short poem by Micah that he posted pretty soon after, he was stabbed in the throat. I am alive. I spat in the eye of hate and lived. This is what we must do for one another. We must live for one another. We must fight for one mother. I think that's what it's supposed to be. We must die in the name of freedom if we have to. Luckily, it's not my turn today. So there are various readings going on the other side of the river to benefit the victims of this, including the 2 young women that these gentlemen were defending. So if you want to know more about that, you can get on my newsletter, or just it's pretty much blowing up Facebook right now, so it'd be pretty easy to find out what's going on there, and getting a lot of coverage in the local press. But I just wanted to dedicate it to these folks because I feel very moved that people would defend someone who's being harassed in this way, and I hope that we can all find the courage to do that, and I also hope that we can do it without getting injured in some way, so this reading is for them. And I can't think of a better person to start such a momentous evening. We have a double feature tonight, 2 of, I think, some of the best performers we have in the area. We have Rob Katsuno and Dan Raphael, and they're both going to be a treat. The way that things are going to go is we'll go through some of the open mic, we'll have Dan Raphael, then we'll take a little break, and Rob will open up the second half. But we have a really great performer as well to open things up for the evening, and that is Mike G. Please say hello to him.
Always grateful to be here. Beautiful evening, beautiful paintings, and all of you are beautiful. Very excited to hear Dan, whom I've heard many times, and Rob for the first time. Right. We were snowed out a couple times in the winter, but Rob is here. When you fuck up, you just gotta start over. In 1987, Bob Ross said, "Today let's build a happy cloud." There we go. Good. This is your cloud, and maybe this cloud has a little friend. In 2500 BC, Confucius said, "I never said any of that shit people are saying I said. My friends, while waiting for the world to end, we might as well be extraordinary." Warning, unreliable narrator forthcoming. Usually I get my best ideas from extra-dimensional entities who pretend to be my friend. "Stop," I said to the lion, and the lion licked my hand. In my past life, I was a simple slug, leaving a trail of light for my future selves to follow. This allowed me not to lose my shit when I see someone wearing a "Make the Poor Eat Squirrel Meat Again" t-shirt. June has bones to chew, may they not be ours. Coming soon, reality assumes a cartoonish hue. My emotions tend to be tied to the digital world, the 10-year-old neighbor girl says. That's why the childless intellectuals wonder why people are still having babies. She opened the notebook found on the sidewalk. Dear God, life is hell, is all it said. Nothing else but untouched white, no residue from pressed leaves of a perfect autumn that no one believes. Lots happened this week. I stubbed my toe. My girlfriend stabbed the celebratory meatloaf with 50 Viagra candles. The weather lady had no life in her eyes, but God, her smile was white. It came as no surprise that her nice holiday forecast was fake news. We keep pushing the zombie meme to psychologically prepare the masses for cannibalism. Regards, the powers that be. My time machine set for 1996 so I can re-experience the reality of critical thinking. My brain has too many tabs open, and let's face it, 1996 will never rise again, but still I refuse to allow the world's bad news to take root in my heart and rot the whole. That's how they control us. Mostly I'm just hanging out waiting for the giant organic beanstalk to grow so I can climb high above the chemtrails and their dripping nanoparticulates and get the fuck out of here. The CERN Particle Collider facility contains the actual head of Osiris. It really does. The pedestal upon which he sleeps says this: harmonics is how we'll tear the veil. Usually, I think reincarnation is just another theory of control created by the elites. Meanwhile, another toddler just asked her mother where her wife is. I haven't the heart to tell my girlfriend Brenda that Ellen is part of the agenda. Brenda loves Ellen. Never apologize for psychological ability to pry yourself out of bed privilege. The nothing matters lie only serves the interests of the elites. The only reason I continue to write is that maybe as a consequence, one or two human beings will stop believing that shit. Overheard at the restaurant. Baby, what's on the menu? 3D printed food. The non-poetic world with its literal stupidity continuously barks at poets to piss in corners of round rooms. The non-poetic world is dumb as a watermelon. This is what we're up against. Resist the dumbness of watermelons. There ain't no time for one phony line. In my old age hermitage, when the privileged young hound me for rent and autographs, I'll say, I am Mike G., author of Illuminati Simulation Non Sequitur Heaven Blues Part 32. Leave me alone. Sadly, in other fake news, when I want to be lazy or avoid responsibility, I take a cue from Uncle Trumpy, the 45th Prez. Honey, will you do me a favor? Brenda says, no, next question. Even I am suspect. Mike G. is a construct. Finally, the only thing Michael Guimond, not Mike G., really believes is that smoking cigarettes combats the nanoparticulates that the chemtrails drip. You really are nuts, aren't you? Scooby-Dooby-Doo! Thanks.
Cleanses the palate, doesn't it? And now we're going to hear from Scott. Come on up, Scott. Yes. Scott, who is also helping us all to be less uncomfortable with this thing.
Hey there, beautiful people. Poetry lovers, poets, yet to be poets, and poetry lovers. My name is Scott. I'm going to read a couple poems for you. As Christopher mentioned, I also have a special title as the sound guy of this event, which mostly means that I try to make people uncomfortable by moving the microphone closer to them while they're reading. So let me just say this mic stand was generously donated by my brother without his knowledge, and if you'd like to try to learn how to use it while you come up here, that's great. If you'd like me to tell you some stuff about how to use it, we can do that too. But feel free to play around and destroy it. We want this to be a place where people can learn how to do stuff like move a microphone up and down. So, okay, first bookmark here. This one's called Diseases of Despair. They're dying. Those who said to have it all, gotta give yourself away. Give in to the stumbling home over walls of sleepy time, tea bags, building barriers, tripping on curbs, ripping beyond American dream suburbs. In between this happy fact facade lays a trap of heartbreak and rap tapping on the door, chest beats to the floor, the spirit is bored. Commune on sunny days, only in proper ways. Forget about the slaves, put the shirt on your back. Work not for a wage, but soul's salary, crushing like entropy, running its course. Of course, of course, of course. Thanks. Bemused. If I worried what they thought, I'd have shot myself long ago. To forego ostensibly traditional modernities, charading as fact of the matter, like neutron and neutrino, baby, don't go, like electron jumping orbit bumping to the photon. You're so handsome tonight. Well, I feel intoxicated. Couldn't wait for later to cut my beard off. It's about whatever, I don't know, the reason we keep spinning on, but I'm along for the ride. Float with the music, like subtle change yet pervasive, the same way I lie next to. If it wasn't who, then do I muse on, but you, and on. And so what's this poem about? Woo! And finally, I didn't get around to giving this one a title, so if you have any good ideas, let me know after I read. Thanks. I pull a red hair from my black sock. Yours, like dead pets and bygone lovers, living on in strands woven into the fibers of life, enmeshed in memory, physically manifest. Remember pulling those red hairs and your body closer. I pause, breathe it out, like a sigh or a little cry wailing on over why we wandered. Away from that bed, grown cold but sweeter in memory after time and death's passing. Kiss, I don't want it to be again or over and over again and again. There's no winning love. Thanks.
What a tall microphone.
This one?
This
one.
Yeah, this goes up in
All right. Yeah, how about that? I'm like so pleased with myself. I don't know. It's the little things, I think. Yeah, no, it's the tiny little things. You know, enough of those together and you feel like you got it. All right. So welcome back, Lori Loringer. You're up next, and it's nice to see her after All right, I'm glad you're about the same height I am.
I know. I planned that. That's another little thing I planned.
All right, well, in honor of those fellows that Chris mentioned, I have been working on writing a poem, and I'm going to just pretend it's done and go ahead and read it. I've got a couple of quotes in there from a couple of them. Michael Fletcher, the guy who survived, I heard an interview with him, and he said that he was asked if he thought everybody ought to, step up and do what's right. And right before saying he was uncomfortable with this line of questioning, he wanted the guy to stop. He said, it's the duty of those who can. Being able to do the right thing is a privilege some people can't afford. And that stuck with me. And I hope I do not butcher this man's name, but Taliesin Namkai Meshe?
Tilly.
Huh?
He was known as Tilly to his friends.
Thank you. That is much easier. But it was also very striking to hear that his last words were what I titled this poem, Tell Everyone on This Train That I Love Them. All right. So many ways to propagate hate. Speak it and spout it and live it until you believe it's true. You can teach it to your children. Feed it with your angry thoughts and stories. Keep it on the fire where it simmers and steams until it explodes in violence. So many ways to propagate hate. While those of us who don't believe, who won't give energy to hating, pour reason and truth and love on the heat of it, with just the one way to not hate. To not hate. To not hate people who aren't like us or don't think the same. To not hate even the haters. To just not hate. It's the duty of those of us who can to speak up when hate is spoken, taught, displayed, acted on. It's our privilege to do the right thing, a privilege not everyone can afford. We're all on this train, traveling together to wherever we're going our own ways. We're on this train together, packed in tight, with no room for hate. Tell everyone on this train that I love them. All right, and this poem is the result of a rare, very vivid dream that I had. It's called You Can Never Go Home. I dreamed of my grandparents. Some of it was so familiar, particular rooms in a house that isn't quite right, the way the back deck surrounds a tree overlooking the garden. There were people everywhere, not just family, but strangers. They were having some kind of big meeting in an upstairs room. I found it once, but could never quite get there a second time. Did I mention I was naked? I was wearing slippers, looking for the right way in. They kept my feet from direct contact with the snow. When I first found the meeting, I noticed that everyone noticed I was naked. I said, "Don't worry, I could put on a shirt," which I did. So after that, I had slippers and a long shirt that covered my breasts and bare ass. I was happy to make everyone else more comfortable, but didn't really care otherwise that I was naked. In my dream, I wondered why I wasn't cold. I mean, there was snow everywhere and no central heating. I tried all the stairs from inside the house and found places I'd forgotten and some I'd never seen. Then I tried all the doors heading in from outside. Even when I could clearly hear voices and laughter from the mystery meeting, I couldn't find the room again. The house had been built onto in stages and kind of rambled, changing over the years, as it is still changing with my cousin's family in it. I saw my dead grandparents, who always loved me unconditionally, as I loved them. It was nice to see and be seen by them. I guess it's true you can never go home, but perhaps you can find ways to visit, even if everything's changed. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Herb Stokes. Right here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was going to play my harmonica for you, but I left it in the other shop. Actually, I didn't leave it. They took it away from me.
Mike G's got it.
You know what that is. Harsh treatment from a mother. It wasn't until years later that I realized my mother had treated me like a dog throughout my early years. She would take my head and twist it all around, checking my face, mouth, eyes, nose, and ears, primarily for dirt, but also with squeezes and probing figures to examine inside, just as she did with all of our dogs that obeyed her as readily as I. Men, scared me for a second. It's a long black thing coming at me. Now I know how ladies feel when they come down. Get that thing out of here. This is serious. Men and women at war. I believe we are proposing women for combat because we are running out of men who wish to die in place of the men living in the country that Americans are dying for. Another way to get more men is to institute a draft, but that is unlikely because the government realizes how distasteful a draft is for an unpopular war. And to force the children of voters to die or be wounded in such an unpopular war could mean the end of the career for a politician by being voted out of office at the next election. Of course, politicians will say they are providing women with another opportunity. They will be making it easier for our daughters to die, along with our sons. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. Okay. I do know this next reader pretty well, but I won't tell you any of his secrets. Let me introduce Angelo Luna.
Hey, I have not been able to be here much in the last few, that's a powerful microphone. Haven't been able to be here much in the past few months because junior year has been keeping me very busy, but it's summertime, so hopefully I'll be able to come every month now. My writing has been taking a new turn lately, and it's brought me here, so yeah. Communion. I lay there, hovering, like a hummingbird to a flower. Your eyes are the nectar to my soul. Red, the only color in front of me, and the only color that brings me any joy, because it comes from you. Below the tangled waves rests insecurities that lie in rapture, made unimportant by altered states of mind. Beauty rests here, in the place where joy and sadness meet. There's not much sadness here, is there? And yet, more than I can know. Even lower still is a visible sort of protection, shows me a sense of knowledge about what's good for you, wisdom in tiny black stitches. You and me, what a wonderful sentiment. The point of our connection, fingertips, buzzing with electricity, reminding you I'm here, and I want to stay. So let's meet again, in another time, in another place, or simply just stay. Yeah.
Next up is Angelo's dad.
So because Angelo hasn't made it here, I have a poem that I wrote for Angelo that I probably would have read earlier at the reading, but I was waiting until he could hear it. So in the class that I do at Multnomah Arts Center in Portland, which is a really great facility over there, great staff, great student writers. We have Jan is one of the people from that class. We did an exercise where I asked people to bring in photographs, and that's all I said. I said, bring in some photographs, and then we kind of passed them around, and people wrote off of the photographs. And so this is the poem that I wrote of one of the photographs that I got. Valerie's family photo totally destroys me for Angelo. Somewhere in the recesses of my memory resides the perpetual joy of watching your hair bounce as you ran from me, your little legs infused with boundless energy, your little head barely containing a consciousness bursting with limitless possibility. Like lone wolf and cub, we traversed the strange and passive-aggressive streets of Ghost Town, and I wrote down every word you said because they were brilliant. You reminded me that magic is real, that life is good, that despite your mother's concerted effort to destroy me, everything would eventually be okay. You saved my ass. You do not even realize that our adventures could have ended with the shadow of a horrible memory, a newspaper clipping reporting the violent end of a father who simply gave up. Thank you for every smile, every kiss, every time you challenged me or made me laugh. Your love makes every sacrifice worthwhile. You're not a little boy anymore, except in my heart's memory, and I can never thank you properly for bringing me back to life.
And now this is a person not related to Angela. Alex, come on up.
Gotta like eyeball it. Okay. Before I read anything, I just have a little announcement. Today it was announced that I was a finalist for the Floating Bridge Press Chapbook Award. So look forward to my chapbook, The Myth of Man, sometime in the future. Thank you. So I have a couple poems tonight I've chosen in honor of Pride Month. The first is by Peter LaBerge from his chapbook Makeshift Cathedral. It's titled Midnight in Findlay, Ohio. Until I step into the field, there are no headlights to hold a body like this in warmth. No men to roll down passenger windows, to invite boys into boarded up cathedrals, which I know may vanish if they trust a body in the wrong direction of wind. One man asks for midnight, and I give him whatever my body still answers to. Whatever boys across the cul-de-sac could not split open, draw out. These are the boys who picture me as they split a pile of logs with the hand-me-down axe one of them unwrapped for his 16th birthday. This is how they make their parents proud. One touches himself and they repeat their joke. This is just practice for marriage. As the blade meets the wood, then the memory of wood splits the body into silence. I'm a visitor to this cathedral of fields, cul-de-sacs, northwestern Ohio. I spend these days and nights itching across skin, learning what it is to cause more shame than I have ever been worth. I know a body that answers to regret in this way. It is the axe I once forced into the same wood, same Ohio, same boys, and raucous applause. Though for hours that night, all I could do was picture the tree I turned silent. I had stopped the trunk mid-sentence, and the mouth I made hardly knew what to say. The next poem I'm reading is by Kaba Akbar, and it's from his chapbook, Portrait of the Alcoholic. This is Portrait of the Alcoholic floating in space with severed umbilicus. In Fort Wayne, I drank the seniors, Old Milwaukee, Old Crow. In Indianapolis, I stopped. Now I regret every drink I never took. All around coffee grounds and eggshells, this sweating a mouthful of lime. As a boy, I stole a mint green bra from a laundromat. I took it home to try on while my parents slept, filled its cups with the smallest turnips in our pantry. The underwire grew into me like a strangler fig. My blood roiled then as now. Back on earth, frog spit is dripping down with aloe spikes. Salmon are bullying their way upstream. There is a pond I leapt into once with a lonely blonde boy. When we scampered out, one of us was in love. I could not be held responsible for desire, but he could not be held at all. I wonder where he is now. If he looked up, he might see me, a sparkling. I always hoped that when I died, I would know why my brother will be so sad. He will tell his daughter I was better than I was. He will leave out my cruel drunk nights, the wet mattresses, my driving alone into cornfields, unsure whether I'd drive out. I wish he were here now. He could be here. This cave is big enough for both of us. Look at all the diamonds. And then finally, I have a poem that I wrote last month in Christopher's class, The Work. There's another opportunity to go to that this Saturday. And I highly recommend it. I always get at least 4 amazing poems. I mean, they're not always amazing, but you know, I get something out of it, which is always great.
This is titled Invitations Only. In January 2017, the Toronto Pride organization voted to ban uniformed police officers and their floats from the parade. Naturally, some people were outraged. They will protect you. They've kept you safe. It is their job. We can have our origin story, but it will always involve them. We can have our parades and protests, but even when uninvited, it will always involve them. Blue has always been a part of the rainbow. There is blood on the bark of a tree in every park in North America. There is a police report and an evidence bag and a criminal record for sharing 5 fingers and a pair of lips. Organs are contraband. On the steps of cut marble, there is a history of uniformed state-sponsored hate. Lines of police, blue poison inhaled and bleeding. The police are not invited because they broke my grandfather Gay's bones. They are not invited because they forced my aunties out of their jobs. They are not invited because they took the sides of murderers and locked up my sisters who chose to defend themselves. They are not invited because we are not sure if they are here to protect this congregation or to protect others from us, cuffing us to this float following a specified route. Rage and pain and grief and pride cannot be contained by a line. They are not invited as an institution with badges and riot gear and guns meant to impede us and break us open. Sylvia knew them. All of the people of color know them. The boys of Boise knew them and have hid their whole selves away if they were lucky. We all know them. We are bound by history and violence. But you, officer, queer and scared and seeking some kind of home, if you take off your badge and relinquish all weapons but your voice, you can come with us. Your invitation is always open. Thank you.
So congratulations on the chapbook. That's really great news. Thank you for sharing that news with us. I'm really happy for you. And since Alex was kind enough to mention the work, a few more details about that. Second Saturday of every month, except for August. Take a little break in August because I'll be traveling. We gather at 11:30 till 2:30. The first half hour is getting some coffee and tea, and we ask people to bring snacks to share because of the hour. And you will read, listen to, share some poetry with each other. $20 suggested donation, which means if you can't swing that, we want you to be there with us. And there are several people in the room that have taken it, so don't take my word for it. Talk to them. And they have all been very kind to mention how much they enjoy it. So anyway, we'll be here on Saturday if you want to come and write with us a little bit. Thanks for mentioning it. And next we're going to hear from one of the other folks here in town who has an open mic, a pretty fun open mic over at Paper Tiger Coffee. Please say good evening to Joyce Colson.
Thank you. Just stay here. There, that's better. Okay, thank you. Well, I haven't been here in a while. Main reason being because I didn't have new poetry to read. That was worthwhile. But that's changed. The second reason is I've been dealing with, my mother passed away last month, and I was dealing with her, and that's been hard on me, being her oldest child. So, and then open mic poetry is at Paper Tiger, and Herb Stokes will be my next reader, featured reader, reading from his new book, A Chorus of One, which is appropriate because I do a feature each year at my open mics, And this year's feature is having, because I say lyrics are next door to poetry, I'm having people that write their own lyrics and sing their songs showing up as my features all year long. And so Chorus of One is a perfect title for a book for for a reader, poet reader to read it as, well, okay, anyway, you get it. I'm going to start by sharing a poem from my mother. She was also a poet. June Service, I published a couple of her books. This one's Books, Butterfly, and the Mysterious Garden. This one's kind of cute, and I'm going to share. Called Twinkle, Twinkle in the Sky. Twinkle, twinkle in the sky, was that a UFO passing by? I've always been on my guard, hoping one would land in my backyard. Why do I have this terrible yearning about other galaxies to be learning? I long to know what goes on afar, what happens in a skylab on a distant star. Are there black holes, novas, suns, and moons? In what rhythm do they sing romantic tunes? Does gravity hold them to the planet until they die? Or can they wander in an airship in the sky? Oh, twinkle, twinkle in the sky, when oh when are you coming by? Take me along into distant space, though I want to retain Earth as my home base. I've been getting really good responses from my mother's poetry, so I'll just keep on sharing, especially since she was born in June. If she had lived, she would have been, I think the 24th of this month, she would have been 89. My poetry has changed. I was here a couple of months ago, and I was, at that time, I think I was looking in the dictionary at random words to use for my poetry as titles to my poems. That lasted for about 2 or 3 weeks, then I was back in my slump again. But my mom's passing away gave me a kind of an epiphany, and I realized, well, I can mope around and be full of grief about losing my mom, or it hit me that ever since last November, when you know who got elected, I was stuck in gear writing 2 kinds of poetry, grief poetry or satire poetry about Trump. And I was getting kind of tired of writing those 2 kinds of poems, and then I realized, wait a minute, I'm limiting myself. That's an epiphany I had. I can write that stuff, embrace it, write it, and the rest of it will come, and it did. So I'm going to read a couple of my new poems, although one of them is a grief poem. But that's, like I said, I'm embracing it all. This one is called Home is the Heart. Home is the heart, and living there can be sweet, or it can be nostalgic. Home is the heart, and moving there is nostalgic, or it can be full of love. Home is the heart, and the rooms all have a view, so see the dreams and wishes. Home is the heart, and I remember love, or being home in a deja vu. Home is the heart, and no vacation releases love, but when we return, love releases memories, and that nostalgia reminds me of lost love. And my mom wrote a poem called The Heart is the Key to Love, or The Key to Love is the, something like that. You know, that gave me an idea, and I wrote this poem called The Key. How do we unlock that door? Is this the key to understanding? Is it the key to happiness? Is it the key to wishes come true? The key seems so simple. It's right here in my hand. I know it unlocks my curiosity. I know it unlocks all my questions. So what is this mysterious key? I think I understand now. This is the key that unlocks before it needs to be unlocked. In fact, it unlocks all things. Is that why they call it the key to love? And one last little announcement.
Of course.
This being Pride Month, they're having at Barnes & Noble, the last Tuesday of the month, they're going to have an anthology that's going to be read by Linda, myself, and Ty Young. because people that wrote, that participated in the anthology are all many miles away. None of them live locally. And they requested that only trans or queer people read their poems out of the anthology. So David Hill contacted me, and so Linda and I and Ty will be reading from the anthology at Barnes & Noble on the last Tuesday of the month.
Thanks for letting us Yeah, so head over there to Barnes & Noble, and I'm not sure if Joyce mentioned this, but there are some open mic slots available at that as well. Okay, next we're going to hear from Frank Hall. Are you ready, Frank, to come and read a few things to us? All right.